Welcome, my friends, to Unity South Twin Cities. Judy Moen, our director of music, a friend of Dale's of many years, did a wonderful job putting together our music for today. So, for some of you, it might seem a little unusual at certain times, but these were favorites of Dale. So, on behalf of the family and friends of Dale John Foley, I welcome you to this church as we gather to acknowledge Dale's passing from this world to the next. We hold him gently in our hearts with thoughts of peace and love and with our faith in life ongoing. For life is surely transformed, but never absent in God's creation. Let us pray. Almighty God, we acknowledge your presence surrounding us, your perfect idea of being in Jesus Christ, who strengthens us, and the Comforter, your Holy Spirit, that will guide us in time to renewed peace. In faith, we know your Holy Trinity is filling us with an unconditional love and strengthening us by our non-judgmental acceptance as we say goodbye to the physical presence of one who was and is dearly loved. It is through experiencing our unity with your Spirit that we recognize the reality of eternal life, and therefore we know there can be no spiritual separation from those we love. In this truth, we can find lasting comfort. It is in this faith, in ongoing life, that we pray and celebrate the earthly and spiritual life of our beloved Dale Foley. And so we say, Amen. And I'm going to invite you to stand, if you are able, as we sing our opening song, another one that Dale sung with gusto. We'll repeat it 3 times. We greet the Spirit. It's okay to swing. We greet the Spirit when we sing and pray. We greet the Spirit on this glorious day. We greet the Spirit that's in every one of us. We greet the Spirit in you. We greet the Spirit when we sing and pray. We greet the Spirit on this glorious day. We greet the Spirit that's in every one of us. We greet the Spirit in you. We greet the Spirit when we sing and pray. We greet the Spirit on this glorious day. We greet the Spirit that's in every one of us. We greet the Spirit in you. Please be seated. That brought back wonderful memories. Dale often served outside the doors as usher before the early service, and he and I would be standing back there swinging with that tune. A reading from Parker Palmer. William Stafford said, "There is a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change." Palmer wrote a commentary on that thought. Everything falls away except the thread you followed perhaps unknowing all along. The thread that strings together all you've been and done, the thread you didn't know you were tracking until toward the end, you see that thread is what stays as everything else falls away. Follow that thread as far as you can, and you'll find that it does not end, but weaves into the unimaginable vastness of life. Your life never was the solo turn it seemed to be. It was always part of the great weave of nature and humanity, an immensity we come to know only as we follow our own small threads to the place where they merge into the boundless whole. Each of our threads runs its course, then joins in life together. This magnificent tapestry, this masterpiece in which we all live forever.
Upon the mountain, my Lord spoke. Out of his mouth came fire and smoke. Looked all around me, it looked so fine, till I asked my Lord if all was mine. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Jordan's river is chilly and cold. It chills the body, but not the soul. There ain't but one train upon this track. It runs to heaven and not right back. Now every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, oh, I will pray. Down in the valley, when I feel weak, it's when the devil, he usually speaks, because he's crafty and full of lies. I need the Spirit to keep me wise. Oh, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, oh, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, yes, I pray. So every time we feel your Spirit moving in our hearts, we will pray. Every time we feel your Spirit moving in our hearts, we will pray. Sing it with me. Every time we feel your Spirit moving in our hearts, we will pray. Oh yes, every time we feel both your spirits moving in our hearts, we will pray. Oh, we will pray. Yes, we will pray. A happy day.
A reading from the prophet Isaiah. Don't you know? Haven't you heard? The eternal, the everlasting God, the creator of the whole world, never gets tired or weary. His wisdom is beyond understanding. God strengthens the weary and gives vitality to those worn down by age and care. Young people will get tired. Strapping young men will stumble and fall. But those who trust in the Eternal One will regain their strength. They will soar on eagle's wings. They will run, never winded, never weary. They will walk, never tired, never faint. 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. What happens when the individual goes through the transformation we call death? There is simply the separation of the soul from a particular body. As family and friends, we mourn this time of loss and the separation of Dale's physical presence, and it's natural that we should grieve. I encourage you to honor your feelings at this time, and through the ongoing days, process your sorrow in your own way. There is no one right way to grieve. The body is merely the clothing that the soul has worn for a time. In the process called death, the clothing is discarded, and the soul goes on to its next experience in God's creation. Jesus said, "Let not your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, the infinite spiritual principle of life. Believe also in me, the Christ within you. In our Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. For I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place, I will come again and take you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also." Death is a door, not a wall. Despite physical separation, is possible because the lives of those who have died remain real in the lives of those of us who knew and loved them. Those who have died give us the legacies of their life experiences. We, in turn, give them spiritual space in our hearts, in our memories, places at the vital centers of our souls. Life is giving and receiving. What Dale has given to those who knew him is still present, a lasting gift. The memories and the stories maintain him as a living presence and warmth in our hearts. So in our grieving, in our remembrance, let us contemplate the gifts he gave us through his life. Let us ask ourselves, how is our life more blessed for having known Dale Foley? What are our memories of him? What are the stories we lived with Dale along life's way? And it is in these stories and recollections that we offer a significant blessing to Dale. It is how he lives on through us, how his story is etched into the story of our earth, while his soul journeys onward in the spiritual realm that's traditionally called heaven. As human beings on earth, we live in terms of time, past, present, future. Our hope now, beyond our grief, is to establish a transformed, living relationship with Dale. Not to remain forever in our present grief, not to remember him only in the past tense in terms of our memories of him, but to also acknowledge Dale in his ongoing life, even though we no longer have his physical presence here with us. To speak of him as an ever-existing spirit in God's realm of eternal life is the understanding of Jesus' words. In my Father's house are many dwelling places, and I go to prepare a place for you. In this celebration of life, we honor our grief. We celebrate the events of Dale's life with us, and in the greatest expression of love, we witness his birth into the invisible realm beyond this earth. We can pray and even converse with him as a living spirit within the totality of the human community, including those of us who walk this earth and those like Dale who now walk with God. His love, wisdom, and concern for us have not ended because he laid his body aside. And as we all live in this thought, that is a deep awareness in our mind and heart, that we each live and move and have our being in God or infinite spirit, then we maintain a unity with our loved one, Dale, that is a new relationship of the heart. Thank you, God, for these are many dwelling places or states of being within your beloved creation. Thanks be to God.
Why should I feel discouraged? And why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home, when Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is he, and his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. For his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. So let not your heart be troubled. His tender, oh, so tender words I hear, and resting on his goodness, I lose all doubts and fears. Through by the path he is on the sparrow, and I know that he watches me. Oh, and I sing because I'm happy. Oh, I sing because I'm free. Oh, his eye is on the sparrow, so I know he watches me. Whenever I am tempted, and whenever those clouds arise, when songs give place to sighing, and when hope within me dies, I draw the closer to him. From care he sets me free, and you know his eye is on the sparrow. Ooh, so I know that he watches we, so we can sing because we're happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, so I know he watches you and me. I know he watches you and me.
Jack and Therese have prepared some memories to share with us, so I invite them to the lectern.
Thank you, Reverend Stacy. I'll be speaking for Teresa and myself today, and this will be my first eulogy. I never really thought I could get the words out. I wrote words before Mom and Dad passed, but had the pastor deliver them because I didn't think I could do it. 2 weeks ago, as I was wallowing in my grief, sitting in my kitchen, I got inspired, and I wrote 6 pages of stuff. And I can only say it had to come from God, because I didn't have anything prepared in my mind to write on those 6 pages. But I had this vision of my brother sitting right next to God, saying, ooh, have him talk about the cars. I loved cars when I was young. And ooh, have him tell the stories about the nuns. Well, that should make him laugh, and we got to have a little bit of humor in this. And so I wrote about a lot of stuff. Meanwhile, Therese was trying to think about what she wanted to say, and her good friend Gina, who is here today, said, just write about the things that you thought made Dale special for you. So that's what she did. And so I'll be trying to channel a little bit of Dale humor today, because those of you who know him well know that he would not be happy if we didn't have a little bit of humor in what we do here today. So to Teresa and I, Dale was big brother, and I often referred to him by that name when I would talk to him. 2 years older than me, 6 years older than our little sister Treese. And I'm Jack, John Anthony Foley Jr., because Dad was senior, and so my nickname became Jack because he was John. Dale always wanted to be John Jr. He expressed this a number of times. He didn't understand why he, as firstborn, didn't get to be John Jr. But he was named after our Uncle Dale. And Dale was my mother's brother, and he was a blue baby. Babies that didn't have much oxygen carrying capacity for one reason or another, like a hole in the heart was one of those reasons. And back when Dale was born, Dale, our Uncle Dale, doctors didn't know really what to do about blue babies. He passed away at the age of 8 years old. And so my brother had the honor of being named after Uncle Dale. And that held a very sentimental place in our mother's hearts. You may have noticed a resemblance between Dale and I. I've had a number of people say that to me today. It must have killed him that I was the better looking of the two. Actually, I would defer that to Dale. Dale had that thick head of dark hair that you see in some of the pictures down there long after my hair had gone to places unknown. And he was a little bit taller than me, too, so I will defer to Dale as the better looking of the two of us. We were raised Catholic with the best parents. And our parish pastor was Father Mush. And Father Mush was rather loud, and he couldn't hear very well. Rumor was that he had been shell-shocked in World War II, and so his hearing wasn't that great. So everything was loud, and he was very loud with the altar boys, too. Dale was an altar boy. Maybe hard to believe today, but Dale was an altar boy, and Father Mush would direct the altar boys in kind of harsh language, and so my mother decided that that would be the last son of hers that would be subjected to Father Mush, so I never got to be an altar boy. But Father Mush would, we had one of those confessionals where Father Mush would sit in the center, and then you'd have penitents on either side so that one could be waiting while the other one's going, and Father, they had those little doors that would slide open so he could talk to the penitents, right? And there was nothing subtle about Father Mush. It would be slam, the door would close on one side and slam, it would open on the other side. And then he couldn't really hear all that great, so you'd hear things like, you did what? How many times did you say you did that? God bless you, bam, bam. And I was thinking about Father Mush, as I thought about Dale, because when Dale arrived in heaven, I'm just as sure as I'm standing here that the angels and the saints were pretty soon laughing uproariously up in heaven because Dale would bring his humor to heaven with him, and I can just hear Father Mush saying, "What did that Foley kid say? What? How many times did he say that? Foley, confessional, now." In parochial school, Dale was a little disruptive. He was actually kind of proud of this. He was kind of, his brand of humor just had to come out. And so I'm pretty sure that Sister Gertrude and Sister Enid broke more than one ruler over his knuckles and his head, probably laughing internally, but trying to maintain some semblance of order in the classroom. I'm sure Dale spent his fair amount of time standing in the corner. And Sister Enid once said that Dale was the abomination of desecration. I'm not exactly sure I know what that means, but Dale was so proud of that. And he would bring it up every once in a while that he had been described as the abomination of desecration, and he never forgot it. Fast forward quite a few years, and there was this play called Nonsense, you might be aware of. And Dale and Marlene went to see Nonsense. And it was basically a play with 5 actors playing nuns. Each one had their own little special things that they did. But it all started off with Sister Mary Regina coming out on stage and kind of opening up this play. And she had her ruler in hand, of course. Well, Dale and Marlene were a little bit late. So when they came in, Sister Mary Regina was already up on stage, and when she spotted them come in, she pointed the ruler at him and said, "You're late!" And my brother, of course, having an opportunity to play along, immediately got this sheepish look on his face, and he said, "It's her fault." I want to take you back to our childhood, because Dale and I always had these adventures that we would go on. And this is back when we had one pair of shoes, leather shoes, because we outgrew them so fast that it didn't make sense to have a whole lot of pairs of shoes. So we had leather shoes. And we grew up in North Minneapolis, and for those of you who are familiar with North Minneapolis, Shingle Creek runs through North Minneapolis down to the Mississippi River. And so we would follow the Shingle Creek down to the river, and we would wear our leather shoes. And of course, we had to walk on the rocks to go across the creek wherever we could, and pretty soon one foot would slip in, and then pretty soon the other foot would slip in, and then we would just walk down the creek in our leather shoes. And our leather shoes kind of took a beating. We also loved to go fishing. You'll see some fishing lures downstairs. It's one of the things that Dale and I really enjoyed doing. We used to fish in Ryan Lake, which is right on the border of Minneapolis and Robbinsdale. And so we would go out and water the lawn at night, and then get up in the morning and go out and look for night crawlers and dig for worms. It's a good thing our parents didn't care too much about what the backyard looked like, because we were always digging for worms back there. And then we would pile off to get on our bikes. Dale had a nice new 26-incher. Mine was a 24-inch, very much hand-me-down bike with no brakes, which created a few experiences for me, but we're focusing on Dale today. And so we would go to Ryan Lake, and we would wade out in the water, sometimes up to our necks, and we would be fishing like this. And we caught a lot of sunfish and crappies and had a great time fishing in Ryan Lake. Before Dale passed here, he's always so positive. And he was talking about us going fishing again. I guess God had other plans. Humor was one of the things that was always kind of a hallmark in our family. And so Dale and I, I'm sure this was Dale, actually, because I would never do something like this. But we would tease our little sister. Mom and Dad, had the three of us and wanted to have one more child. They wanted to have a sister for Treese, so she'd have somebody to play with. And unfortunately, Mom ended up having, shortly after having Treese, had a bunch of tumors in her uterus and had to have a hysterectomy. They were all benign, and she survived that okay, but Dale and I were relatively sure that Treese was just a tumor that was not recognized as such at the time. And like I said, I'm sure Dale came up with that one, because I would never say anything like that. So Treese's recourse was to call us names. And so she made up these names like Little Big Pig and Noodle Brain. And she would call us by those names. One of those names, the Little Big Pig, is commemorated in a birthday card that Dale made for Treese. And it's downstairs on the table if you want to take a look at it. It's the one with the pig on the front. And it commemorates that Little Big Pig thing, which from our very early childhood and just never seemed to die. The other thing we did a lot was backyard carnivals. We had a tent. We'd put the tent up, and then we would get a quarter out of all the neighbor kids, and we would do this thing called Video Village. Anybody here old enough to remember Video Village? It was a game show on TV back in 1960 to 62. And they did, a dozen primetime shows and 501 daytime shows. And contestants would go on this board, like a life-size board, and they would go around the board and win cash and prizes and that sort of thing. So we had our own little Video Village. And the thing about that is that was Dale's entrepreneurial spirit that he always had. I don't think Dale wanted to work for anybody else. So he was always searching for things that he could do, or he could be the boss. And so he had his water conditioning business, and he was always looking at some of these pyramid marketing schemes and that sort of thing. And throughout his whole life, I think one of the themes of his life was, I don't want to work for anybody else. I'm going to work for me. So he was always looking for that next big thing. Cars. Dale loved cars. By the time he was able to drive at all, he went through a lot of cars. Anybody here ever ridden in a car with Dale? Okay, you are lucky to be alive, right? Ashley knows my brother really well, and I'm lucky to be alive because I got to ride with him quite a bit. And I want to tell you this one story about when Dale was learning how to drive. Of course, it's his little brother, and I was going to learn how to drive in a couple of years. Actually, I probably learned how to drive earlier than that because I worked and lived on a farm during the summertime, and I got to drive a lot of stuff. But when Dale was learning how to drive, Mom was taking him out for a driving lesson, and we came up to a railroad crossing. Back then, we didn't have the big arms that came down. It was just, the stop sign would turn around and the lights would flash. So Dale pulled up to the stop sign. The train was right there. He looked both ways and then started to go across the tracks. Well, this was the 1953 Plymouth with a standard transmission, 3 on the column, first, second, third. And Dale was not all that great at letting out the clutch. And so we started out across the tracks, and my mother started screaming about how, he should stop. But letting out the clutch, we started to do one of these. And luckily, he pushed the clutch back in and let it out a second time, and we got across the tracks. But I'm sitting in the back seat. I thought I was gone for sure. Maybe he'd get across the tracks, but I didn't think there was any way that I would. And he and his buddy, Sonny Gross, had a really souped-up Chevy Chevelle. And Dale and Sonny would take that car out and drag race up and down West 7th and St. Paul, Central Avenue, and Lake Street in Minneapolis, any major road. They would go drag racing, and they would get a lot of speeding tickets, and there was a center console in the car, and they just open that up, and they'd have all their speeding tickets neatly piled in the center there. And eventually, Dale was able to get his license taken away from him for a period of time. But he had a 1962 Chevy Impala at one time. And there's a picture of it on the picture board if you want to see it. It was owned by a guy that ran a body shop. And so the exterior was white and just pristine, really beautiful paint job on it. The inside was fire engine red. It had a 4-on-the-floor chrome shift stick and glass pack mufflers. So when you hit the gas, that thing would roar. And you could get rubber in all 4 gears. So it was pretty cool at that time. He had that car 8 days before he got in a head-on accident with it. And had a pin in his shoulder from that for the rest of his life. He got hit by a young guy that had no insurance and had just had an argument with his girlfriend. But knowing my brother, that car was snuck over into the other lane just enough for him to get hit because he did not have patience behind the wheel. Am I right? Get by one more person, get by one more person. But there's another story about that 62 Impala. Dale had that car when he was 19. I was 17 and I was in high school. And spring of my senior year, my brother asked me if I would like to take the car to school. I'm 17, glass pack mufflers, rubber in all 4 gears. Do I want to drive it to school? Oh, yeah. I wanted to drive it around and around the block, getting rubber in all 4 gears. But that was my brother. That car was his pride and joy, but he still let me drive that car to high school for a day. And that's the kind of relationship that we had. Oh, and the humor. Therese was remembering when she says Dale and I would get going with humor. I think it was mostly Dale, but because I would never do something like that. But she remembers our dad just putting his head back and laughing so hard, and my wife Sherry laughing till she cried about all kinds of things. But Teresa's son is here today, Jeff, and Dale and I at one point in time were talking about how, as we're getting older now, and he was going to have to take care of us, which would include taking care of changing our bedpans and stuff. And this is Dale now, and this was his type of humor, and those of you who know him know this. He looked at Jeffy and he said, "Jeffy, uh-oh, poopy." To which, if I recall correctly, Jeff said he was going to line us up and spray us down with a water hose. Some of you don't know that Dale did have a previous marriage, and he had a son and daughter. And his daughter, Corrine, unfortunately passed away due to breast cancer at the age of 45 back in 2019. His son, Dale Jr., firstborn son, got to be Junior in this case, I think, is Dale still thinking about how that wouldn't be right if his son didn't get firstborn didn't get to be named that. But his son and daughter, and his His son couldn't be here today with us, and his daughter, of course, has passed. But Dale did have that previous family as well. But moving on to Dale and Marlene, who were together for 44 years, what a team they were, huh? For those of you who know them. They did a lot of travel together, went a lot of interesting places, Machu Picchu and the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, Eastern Europe, some kind of interesting places in Eastern Europe that they probably shouldn't have been at the time that they were there, in Paris. And then with the AA alumni reunions that Marlene would orchestrate, they went to New England and New York and Florida, all over the place. And Dale was a tireless caregiver for Marlene when she had her accidents and stuff. He took such good care of her. And Marlene's son, Rod, and her daughter, Kathy, were also very special to Dale. And Ashley, who is here today, Marlene's granddaughter, who is also very, very special to Dale. In fact, when we started to look through Dale's stuff, we found that almost all of his passwords for websites and his computer all had Ashley's name in them. Happy you could be with us today, Ashley. And Ashley's been very helpful in going through some of Dale's things and helping us get those distributed to some people that could use them, etc. So we appreciate her a lot. Marlene passed away on December 3rd, 2020. My wife, Sherry, passed away 2 months later. And so the night before my wife died, I got a call from the hospital, from the head nurse, and she said, "You should come back to the hospital right now and bring someone with you." Not the kind of words you want to hear. I called Dale, and he was there immediately for me. And so we ended up going through the grieving process together. We took a lot of walks through the park, went to a little coffee shop called the Daily Dose that Dale loved. We could sit there and talk, and after COVID allowed us to do that. A lot of other places we would go for lunch. And Sundays we would gather at Teresa's house. And with Pat, who's sitting next to Teresa, Greg's mother, Greg is Teresa's husband. She lost her husband January 30th, 2020. And so all of us would gather together and just kind of support each other and have a lot of great conversations about little big pigs and noodle brains and tumors and all kinds of stuff. All there to support each other. Dale called Teresa his mother hen, because I think she got that caregiving gene from her mother. And took very, very good care of us. In the end, I want to tell you that Dale was tough. When he got close to the end here, he was living in his apartment, and he had a lot of issues. But he hung in there, and he stayed so positive. Those of you who know him know that he always talked about positive energy and how important it was to have positive energy. Now, he couldn't possibly understand how anybody who exuded negative energy could ever have anything positive happen in their life. And even days before he passed, he was talking about fishing, going back to the Daily Dose, and taking walks and all of that. When he went to the hospital finally, we waited for a day while he got all of his tests and everything, and then Therese called him, and he said, "Well, I want to have a conference call with both of you." And so we did that. We set up a conference call, and he said, it's metastatic cancer, which he knew well before the official diagnosis. Said, "But I want you to know that I don't want you to worry about me. God's got me. God's got me." A day later, I got a call in the evening, and it was I saw on the caller ID that it was North Memorial Hospital. So I answered the call, and it was Dale's nurse. And she said, "Dale can't remember the code for his cell phone, so he asked me to call you." He said he needed to talk to his brother. I said, "Well, yeah, absolutely, put him on." Make it long story short, he said, "I want you to know what a great brother you've been, and this is probably it." The next day, he really wasn't able to carry on a cohesive conversation anymore, so he knew that that was going to be the last time he had a chance to talk to me. Of course, that call, I'll remember forever. Dale brought hugging to our family. I don't think we were a big hugging family until Dale. I mean, he maybe got that from Marlene, because I know Marlene was a big hugger too, but Dale brought hugging to our family, and pretty soon we were all hugging each other. I've heard from people here today about Dale's hugs too. They weren't hugs in passing, were they? They were always kind of sustained personal hugs. Dale died with Therese holding his left hand and me holding his right hand. And very shortly thereafter, Leif and his wife Karen Messingen showed up, just a little bit late, but they had shown up before to spell us a little bit during the time when we were spending with Dale toward the end there. And also been very, very helpful in going through Dale's things and just talking to them along the way, and we really appreciate everything that they've done for us. And I think you all know that Unity South was extremely important to Dale, the relationships he had here. And he talked about Phyllis Brevig and how she adopted Dale and Marlene. Loved them. And Carlotta, she couldn't be here today, but she helped with the memorial details. Is Bob Anderson here? Okay. Yeah, there you are. So Bob, Dale talked about Dale talked about this incident with knives. And you know how persistent my brother could be. He brought it up a lot. So Bob had cut himself with a knife. As I understand the story, Bob had cut himself with a knife during some kind of event here. And every time Dale would see him after that, and they're talking about doing any kind of activity, if Bob was going to be involved, Dale would always say, "Are knives going to be involved?" Is that right, Bob?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Francine is here, and Francine, Marlene gave her the coat of many colors, and Dale said that she was probably one of the few people in the world who could pull off wearing that coat. He also mentioned that her husband Gerald was just such a great guy, and I can vouch for that. They're very, very good friends of Dale's. Patty Chanji, Robin Fraser, Vicki McPhee, Cindy Kaler, Ramon, Kelly, and Heidenkamp, and in memory of Ron Belter, all of you, very, very special for Dale. And I know I'm going to miss some names. Teresa and I tried to come up with as many as we could that Dale had talked to us about. Reverend James Stacy, thank you for being here, and for Marlene, and a very special way that you do things. We appreciate that a lot. And Judy, of course, the genius on the piano, absolute genius. And Adam Schneider, Dale said he's the only guy that he knew that had a PhD in tenor sax. And Thomasine, of course, the voice of an angel, was there for Marlene as well, and we appreciate you, and I think everybody here knows why she's here. And Lindy Anderson, thank you so much for helping us with all the arrangements. So helpful and so easy to work with. Shortly before Dale died, he was laying on the couch in his apartment, and with lots of issues going on at that point. He was laying on the couch. He said, "We are blessed, 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 blessed." And he felt that blessed, that close to passing. And he was right. He was right about Unity South for sure, that we are blessed, 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 blessed. I know that Dale and Marlene are looking down on us right now, and there's some ruler cracking going on up there, I think, across Dale's knuckles right now. But there's lots of laughter and very, very positive energy up there as well. Because those two together are a force, and I feel their presence today. Thank you so much for listening to what Teresa and I had to say today. And I know that Leif has some things that he would like to say, and I'm going to turn over the podium to anybody else who would like to offer some comments about Dale's life. Thank you.
Yes, I can hear that, blessed, blessed, blessed. Because Dale and Marlene were always the first to come to church after me. And we'd always have our special conversations before anyone else came in on Sunday morning. And how many times I heard him speak of the blessings we enjoy. So now it's a time and tradition here at Unity South For any of you who have a story you would like to share about knowing Dale in your life in this church, to come forward informally. I'll meet you down here on the floor with a microphone and just share what's on your heart. And two, the beautiful reception downstairs will allow those of you that might be a little more shy to save your stories for the reception time downstairs. But first, let me get a microphone. Okay, I'm counting on you, Leif.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to see all you folks here this morning. I actually prepared for this a little bit, and so I'm gonna step up here where I can put my piece of paper down. I just wanted to say a couple things about Dale and myself. He and I were prayer partners for the last, I don't know, 8 or 10 years. One day in our Sunday service, Marlene brought out the Science of Mind book, and there was a story in there about prayer partners and what a good and valuable thing that was to do. And the assignment was or the suggestion was to do it for 90 days. Well, neither Dale nor I took particularly well to anybody telling us what to do. And so 7, 8, 10 years later, and I really don't know how long we were doing that. But it was just something that we did for each other at 8 o'clock in the morning. We would, either he would call me or I would call him, and we would just remind each other that Spirit was present in our lives and that it was all working out for the best. And sometimes I needed to hear that really badly. Other days, Dale needed to hear that. And sometimes neither one of us particularly needed to hear it, and that was the end of the conversation, and we went on about the rest of our day. And then there were the days when neither one of us wanted to hear it, and we went on about the rest of our day. But that was just a really fine and special connection that I had with Dale, and it was just helped me. You know, we talk about how Dale was such a presence in this church, and he really was. And as Karen remarked to me when we walked in today, when you came into the church, Dale was always up there at the top of the steps to greet you. And that was such a really marvelous, wonderful thing to have him there to say hello and be there with us. The other thing that was so important to me with Dale was our joint ventures into the recovery community. We were both recovering. I'm a recovering alcoholic and a recovering codependent, and Dale owned that title of recovering codependent. And through the recovery community and what we learned and worked with there, boy, that was just some powerful, powerful stuff. We had many conversations about that at 8 o'clock in the morning too. To know that was a commonality, a bond that held us together and moved us forward and helped us live and grow and be more responsible, loving, caring people in the world. Which Dale was that in no small way. He joined a meeting that I was with, the 1900 Men's Al-Anon group, and it was like when Dale came to that group, it was like he'd always been there. He just was a part of that fit right in, and he was he was in recovery, just as we all were, and it was very, very, very plain to see, and he just showed up like he'd always belonged. And one of the pieces that I came to understand, Dale was a very private man, was my experience of him. And, I feel almost like I've gotten to know Dale better since he passed than I did when we were together. Hearing stories from Jack and Therese and from some of the rest of you, and just understanding more and more about him and how he was in the world. And that's just been a wonderful thing. One of the pieces that Dale and I did was we would walk along the river road in Minneapolis, and there's a space down there on the lower path where there are these gorgeous, magnificent oak trees, just big honking trees that you'd never expect to find in the center of the city, but they're there, and it looks like it's like you're walking into a cathedral. And Dale always enjoyed walking down there into the cathedral on the river, right in the heart of downtown, not downtown, but in the heart of Minneapolis. To walk into the cathedral was a special thing that we did, and he enjoyed. He did like getting out and walking and looking at what there was to see on those walks. I remember him with loaves and fishes, and that's where the knife story comes from. We, mostly it was chicken that we cut up. Yeah, right. And then there might have, Bob gave greatly to those meals, and maybe a little extra. We didn't explore that too deeply, but Dale was always one to be there with us, chopping frozen chicken and waiting for the water to boil. We would try to set up a kitty as to when's the water going to boil, so we could put the spaghetti in it. So he was a big part of that whole thing, and our small construction company that we had. You maybe remember the old shed over here. Bob and Dale and I had to roof that shed, and those two were interested in starting a construction company. I already had one of those, so I really wasn't that interested. But that was a passion for them, and I indulged it a little bit. So anyway, Dale made my life richer, made me a more full, complete man in this world, and I will be eternally grateful for having known him and having had that time with him. And I would just say, anybody else, I'm more than happy to hand this microphone off to anybody else.
Hi, my name is Kelly van Heidekamp, and if somebody were to ask me what deep, unwavering faith looked like, I would say it is Marlene and Dale. So I am so grateful to have had models that could honor the yuck and say, yeah, that sucks. And you know what? God is all there is. And so when I think of Dale, I see him right back there in that chair. And conversation, and then he would just say, God is all there is. God is all there is. It's like, okay, well, we can go home now because there's nothing left to say because that just wrapped it up. So when Reverend Stacy asked, how was your life blessed because you knew Dale? I will feel that presence every day because of knowing both of them, and I am eternally grateful.
Cindy Kaler, talk to us.
Also, if we would really get feeling sorry for ourselves, he'd say, "Well, and who's driving your truck?" And some things were really touching. Marlene would have trouble getting, after her car accident, when she had trouble getting her necklace on, I would stand out there a little early, so he would drop her up, and I would take her arm, and she said, "No, Dale hasn't done my necklace yet." And I would bring her into church, and then he would park. And then he'd say, "She's kind of hasty today," or she'd kind of whisper something to me. I said, "Oh, that's," but anyway, I was here about 20 years with Dale, and I was years here before with the other ministers, but they were really important to us. Excuse me.
John Trotman, come on down.
Good afternoon. As Reverend Stacy said, I am John Trotman. And the significance is not lost. Last week, Friday at this time, we were commemorating the passing of the ultimate way shower, Jesus Christ. And a week later, one of his very solid disciples, Dale. The oak tree is a nut that stood its ground. Dale was a nut, and his ground was a solid spiritual foundation. His favorite F word was faith, and he was the epitome of faith. I remember in Sunday services, Dale would be back there in one of the last two rows, the last seat, and Marlene giving her lesson in her inimitable Socratic questioning way, and Dale would just spout out some wisdom, some pearl of wisdom that would augment the question or clarify the question or give an answer. That was Dale. And then after service, our superiors would tell us it's time to go. And inevitably, we'd be waiting in the lobby for them. He for Marlene, and I'm waiting for my wife, Yvette. And we would start talking, and Dale would come up with these wise sayings and, these existential truths, like, the longer you live, the older you'll get, and the more birthdays you'll have. Wow. And such was the humor. And we connected there. We called ourselves the Wit Brothers, dim and quick. I'm not sure who was which, but we switched roles. And Dale would talk about Old Testament characters like Boaz. He said, before Boaz married Ruth, he was ruthless. Oh, wow, okay. And we would talk about, Noah, the great shipbuilder and meteorologist. And also, he said he was a financier, he self-financed. I said, well, how do you know that? He said, well, he said he floated a loan. Okay, yeah. But it was a short-term loan, just 40 days. And we would talk about, like Moses, the original geek. He took his tablet, and in order to improve his internet connection, he went up into the mountains, and then he downloaded the 10 Commandments or suggestions, as between perspective, and then he did like Reverend Stacy, pushed that share button and sent it to all the Israelites. And so those are some of the things we got into talking about on Sundays while waiting for our superiors to come along and get us out of here. And Lastly, I'd like to say, Dale always told me, as we get older, we study the Bible more. I said, why is that? He said, because we're getting ready for final exams. Well, Dale has passed his final exam with flying colors, and he's matriculated to Spirit U. And he's probably commiserating with Professor Marlene right now, and they're probably doing some adult education classes. So Dale, congratulations on your graduation. Bon voyage.
Thanks, John. Oh, you want to stay? Okay. Wendy.
I just want to say that whenever Dale was around, he'd give me the best hug in the world. I loved his hugs and his smile and his kindness, and he always made me feel like I mattered. So, Dale, like he said, bon voyage.
Thank you. Anyone else? Robin, come on up. Robin Fraser.
Thank you. I just wanted to just say what just a special loving guy Dale was. I didn't know him at first when I was at Unity because I went to the afternoon service, and then I was working on our website, and I said, I got to learn about the early service so that I can put the right information on the website. And lo and behold, when you do service, great things come, because I got to go with Dale and Marlene, and we met at a cafe in South Minneapolis, and we talked about that morning service, and it was just a life changer. And I ended up joining them on many a Sunday morning. And I told Marlene, I said, Marlene, you're like the spiritual mother. And I would give her a card, and then I got a Father's Day, so I'd give her a Mother's Day card to say, you're the spiritual mom. And then I said, Dale, you're Papa Bear. And he gave those same hugs of looking you in your eyes and being so present. You felt like you were the most important person in the world. And I just love that. And I can just still feel those hugs and those looks and those love. And so I'm just grateful, just so grateful for everything that was contributed. And they'll always be my mama and Papa Bear and spiritual leaders. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Whoop. Anyone else? Claire. Claire. Come sing us something.
Dale was a very long-time, supportive, wonderful friend. And every Sunday, we hugged each other and said we loved each other. And he drove Marlene crazy because every Sunday, first of all, when I'd walk in the door, he'd say, okay, we can start, Claire's here. And then commented on the fact everything matches with Claire. Look at her watch, look at her jewelry, look at all this stuff. And it drove Marlene crazy. It's like, come on, Dale, that's enough. So, but yeah, I mean, everything everybody said was just really my experience of him too. And yeah, we know he's still around and we can talk to him, but this is hard. Okay.
Thank you. Well, I encourage you, during the reception downstairs, you'll have ample time to sit and visit with each other and share more stories of Dale. Being the minister, I want to make an important little announcement. It's our tradition at Unity, we have prayer chaplains. Today, Sharon Rolfson in the purple stole and Yvette Trotman in the back also with the purple stole. They're here to pray individually with you. And at times like this, but really often, Don Rolfson too. At times like these, sometimes we have a tendency to think, oh, I need some prayer support because things are really tough and difficult. But as the medieval mystic Meister Eckhart said, if the only prayer you can offer is thank you, that's enough. And so I encourage you, if you have a full heart, ask one of the chaplains to say a prayer with you, a prayer of gratitude that you had the opportunity to know Dale and Marlene. So now, another great tradition that Dale and Marlene loved is this amazing ability of our Judy to do a piano improvisation right in the moment. And today she's going to offer something, a wonderful composition on the spot, on the notes that correspond to D-A-L-E, Dale.
That's a lot of information to get into 4 notes. Okay, 4, 1, 3, 5.
And now our closing song, On Eagle's Wings. You'll find the words in your bulletin. And let us join together in affirming that truth of the power that carries us onward. I invite you to join with me in Unity's the prayer for protection you'll find in your bulletin, and we speak it and address it to Dale. Dale, the light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is. Amen. And my benediction, which means a good word, I set aside the beauties that I wrote, and I want to get right to the point. Thank you, Dale, John, Foley, for sharing this life with us. Thanks be to our God. May we go in peace. You're invited downstairs to join in a time of sharing and the beautiful reception that members of the church have prepared. So let us go in peace. And thank you for your presence here. It does honor to family and friends to celebrate Dale's life.